Bring it on.
Nissan.
I can talk about Nissan.
Filippo and Nissan.
Nissan, which will eventually have CarPlay Ultra 20 years from now, is cutting. It has announced a plan, or announced that they are making a plan to cut $1.8 billion in expenses from North America alone over the next, depending on news sources, the reports are a little unclear, but over the next 2 years. They're cutting $1.8 billion, excuse me, with a B. So they lost last year $4.6 billion. And they lost
$4 billion.
Yeah.
They lost $4 billion. Think about that.
Sales were a tiny bit up in North America, although we are still below where Nissan sales were 5 years ago in the US.
This is an honest question, but do you think if I started with Nissan's financial position at the start of last year and just spent money like the Sultan of Brunei, do you think I could have lost $4 billion?
No, I was just thinking, I think the Sultan's looking at that going, damn, that's pretty impressive.
The reality, I read a really deep dive into Nissan's financials recently, and a lot of their losses come from lease trade-ins where they had the wrong residual value and where the value fell more than what they expected. And that's ends up being a huge loss when they buy back all those cars, they resell them, they lose a substantial amount of money. So a lot of their losses last year were, in part at least, related to prior decisions that they made around sales and around incentives. That has really hit them. But you can't just say, no, we're not going to buy back the leases, or we're not going to accept the leases back. That's not how that works. So they're forced instead to cut massively from everything else. What their North American chairman said
give us this great quote. Kenan, have you heard this quote yet?
I think I have, but go ahead.
Christian Manure, the Nissan America's chairman, said, what doesn't sell cars, what doesn't take care of the customer and make money for the company, we're going to freeze, postpone, or cancel.
Now, my personal opinion would be that probably should have been their ethos 10 years ago. If it doesn't sell cars, take care of the customer, or make money, what were they doing that was not those things, I wonder?
Their cost-cutting plans include certainly some jobs at factories. There's a few factories that they're going to cut a bunch of jobs from. They're going to offer more voluntary buyouts to salaried employees across the board. And fundamentally, they're just not going to invest in... They're going to invest in getting products out to market quickly. They're not going to invest in what comes next with the next generation platforms, powertrains, battery tech, other tech, et cetera. They're going to kind of pare down to what they can sell today.
That's how you grow a brand, is you reduce investment in the future. Well, when I worked for an automaker coming out of the recession in 2009, you may remember it. And at one point we had to, one of the cuts they made was you could no longer send a next day FedEx without manager approval. Do you think Nissan is at that level yet?
I think they've been at that level. They're straight up USPS stamps.
They're flat rate.
They're not even doing that. They're just adding stamps one by one to every envelope they send.
In fact,
individual stamps.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation for Nissan because they actually are doing okay on sales. They're selling product. They've done a full revamp of their dealer incentive program to presumably cut costs for themselves. That will probably impact sales too, because let's be honest on how some Nissan product lines sell. And they're going to just try to get product out to market quickly. They've said they're going to eliminate about half of their global platforms and just increase parts sharing, platform sharing, development sharing to try to get products out in 30 months instead of double that and just get shit out.
Here's a question for you. Does Nissan even recover from this? I drove the new Pathfinder and the new Armada, and they were both excellent. But it's getting to a point where no matter how good the products are, there's like significant reticence about buying them from general human being public.
Is there?
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean...
I don't think anybody knows. Like, the people that are buying Sentras are not paying attention to autonews.com.
But Sentras are not profitable, and they're not big sellers. And presumably, if Nissan wants to make money, like some of the rival brands, their brand position needs to be better. And it is not. And Armadas and Pathfinders are cars that people do buy based on brand a lot of the time.
I would not be shocked if... I think that Nissan survives this. Apparently, there was a report 2 days ago that Toyota reached out to them about partnering, joining forces, et cetera, after Honda backed out of that. I don't see that happening. But I think they come out of it, but I think they're going to come out of it with way fewer product lines. I think they're going to come out of it with just exiting markets entirely. The U.S. market is doing... Compared to their European sales and their Asian sales, the U.S. market is doing well. Unfortunately for them, it's also the only place they have costs to cut. And so they're in a tough position where they need to cut investment from the only market that's doing it all okay for them.
It just doesn't spell good things for them.
I think they exit out of it, but just with poor product low price. Yeah.
That Honda partnership would be nice. Okay, give us our next news story.
Are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to current trade-in value. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is the trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. Get started now on carsandbids.com. Sell on Cars and Bids and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car.